Hannah Morgan. I'm surprised. I am the Career Sherpa, and I am taking over Mark's the voice of job seekers today. So I just wanted to give you a heads up on that. It is me and Mark, but I'm going to be asking Mark some of the fun questions today. We're going to be having a great conversation about what Mark's up to and what the world of job search is like and all the great stuff that Mark regularly talks about. But I got it. So he's not a hostile takeover. This is all good. So Mark, thank you so much for being here today and for organizing this. How are you?
Well, I'm doing fantastic.
Great. So I'm really flattered that you asked me to sort of take this over and to sort of flip the tables around a little bit. And I've sort of come up with some questions and some thoughts and guide our conversation today. So I'm going to get started right away and ask you, because you don't really often have an opportunity to do this, on your end, to talk about what's new and exciting in your world. What are you excited about working on? What's new with your business?
Well, there's a few things that have happened. One is I'm really focused in on writing in so many ways, more content, but I've been writing for pay these days. So that's really been a big change in being a freelancer in the writing spectrum. Before, it was being freelancer as a consultant, and I'll do some of that, but not as much as on a one-on-one basis anymore. The reason is I feel like I can help more people through writing. I've read some of the because of the platforms, I'll put it this way, some of the platforms that I'm on, and because I get such large responses from those platforms people and questions, I figured that I can help more people that way. And then that way I'm working more of a B2B model than a B2C model, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Your time is
So,
precious too, right?
yep,
So,
yep. And I think the world is also expanding now to where I can also be a video contributor. And this was an awakening through some things that have happened on LinkedIn recently, to where the managing editor of Prezi.com had approached me personally and asked me to be a contributor on their site. So what people are beginning to see now through my LinkedIn feed and all the other feeds, some Prezi video content specifically for the Prezi platform. And I find that a lot better even than YouTube, because it's a no-brainer. Not many people are on Prezi.
right.
And Prezi has a very targeted and purposeful, so it makes sense to me to be a part of that, and to now to be fully motivated to create some video content that I've been talking about for a long time. And I have through the show and through other means, but I really want to be able to do that. But I think that is the way I'm choosing to filter that out.
Well, video is huge, right? I mean,
Yeah.
vlogging and video is just on the rise because everybody's got a smartphone, and that smartphone is everything.
Yes.
So,
Yes. Though I will make an observation though. It seems as though that the decision makers, most of them read more than they watch videos these days. Now, I find that truth because of where I write. That those are the influx of inquiries and questions where people who ask questions. That's where I kind of glean from. So I think though a lot of decision makers are doing more of that. They're reading more right now than they are video. I think there might be some kind of pendulum swing at some particular point. And it just helps to be on top of that. And I think job seekers can also benefit from that by being on platforms where people where they're hiring will look for them,
right.
and look for their material. And people get to know you, but through video, and they feel like they are much more in tune to you than they are to just content alone. They can't seem to separate the two when you present a video before them.
Right, absolutely. So with all this writing that you've been doing and all these videos that you've been
Hmm.
creating, I mean, what are you seeing like right now in 2020? Like, what's the big thing? What's the big topic that people are asking you about or concerned about? What is it? Is there one?
Remote work is hot right now. It's very hot. I write some articles for jobhunt.org. And actually, when I was approached by Prezi, they approached me about doing something for remote work. And that is getting a lot of visibility, a lot of interest right now. So remote work is really big. And that's almost kind of nothing new because we've been saying it for the last 5 years,
Right.
5-6 years, that remote work is going to be hot. You know that I've always approached this as job seekers should really now start being more of a consultant mindset. I've said this for years as well, where you can no longer just want to attach yourself to a company. You've got to kind of be more of a brand voice for them in anything that you do, whether you're going to be the guy that makes copies, if people are still doing that, or whether you're going to be in information services where you're putting out a brand message. Everything's going to be about brand, and that's what they'll be concerned about. Can you represent their brand? And so you've got to not only be a part, do what someone says, but you've got to create ideas that will also add value to enhance that.
Yeah, and they call that intrapreneur, being an intrapreneur, right? Sort
Yep.
of being that self-minded but company player that's looking out for the best interest of yourself, but also the company.
Absolutely. And I think people really are still shorting themselves on the opportunities they have via social media to show that they can do it. Social media is really the place where you can broadcast your abilities where anybody in the world can actually have it. And I just find it interesting. People said they're international this and international. Well, everybody's international now, right?
I know.
I
I think I was international before I was local, honestly.
Yeah, and you know what? That's very interesting. I made a point to someone the other day that I've gotten far more national press and inquiries than I do local. And I find that very fascinating that you don't have to broadcast to, Chicago's a pretty big market and all that. And that would be great to get local press. But, the international press is where people across the world, and you can work anywhere in the world as a remote worker. Your company could be in Spain, and you can still work in your little suburban neighborhood in Naperville, and you'll have a job, and you're being a consultant that kind of way, because you still have to represent that brand in the way they want to, and that's the reason why they're hiring you, or one of the reasons.
So talk a little bit more, because you started to talk about how people should be more aware of their brand on social media, and that's a great opportunity for them. Tell more, like what kinds of things have you seen successful career management people doing, people who are managing their career actively, promoting their brand? What kinds of things are they doing on social media?
Sure. So you and I know, you've been doing this forever. Probably I've come in on the halfway point of forever since. So I can make this observation from 2010, probably 2009 to now. 2009, social media, people were checking on the back end of what your profile is. For the most part, if you talk about employers that were willing to embrace social media, there were a few out there, and the few that would just be willing to do a background choice, a check on the back end of the process. You've gone through the interview process, and you've been you're a great candidate. Now they just want to make sure that you don't have any foolishness. So it was really kind of to help you with the parachute landing. Now this is where you could launch your career in 2020. 2020 now is that you're able to launch your career and your career aspirations on social media from the get-go, and people can see you at the beginning and be inspired by that, and then contact you about your profile and what you do. You can draw interest from the articles you publish on LinkedIn, slide share presentations that you've done in the past that you put on there. Podcasts even could be a place where people could find you. I heard you on this podcast spilling it. I have a friend of mine that always uses as an example. I'm not going to say his name because he's probably tired of me talking about him. But he launched his career long ago, and now he finds opportunities mostly on social media because he puts so much content out there. And he's also become the media in the sense that people are coming to him looking for opportunities, and he's able to create a business around that, and has made a very powerful referral engine for him, as opposed to him, just waiting to audition. And that's what interviews ultimately were in 2009. Now you're auditioning, and because you had a great audition, they're much further along in their interest than they were back then.
Absolutely. So there's so much going on in the world right now of recruiting and hiring. How do you stay current? Is there something that you read? Are there resources or people you follow? How are you doing that?
Gosh. Well, I'll tell you, let me break it down a little bit. There's several ways I can probably break this down. I probably read about 70, 80 blogs total overall at one time or another. There are certain people I keep up with that kind of stay on the cutting edge of a lot of the trends that happen. I can name you as one of them. Jackie Barrett Poindexter is one of them. Mark Miller, Bob McIntosh as another. And there's several others that I kind of consider my inner circle of blogs that I'll read and check and ask for opinions of. And then we have our LinkedIn tribe, those 40 or so people that we consider ourselves coworkers, no less, right. That we kind of look to for information of what's really going on. And it's really great because a lot of us are trying to, promote daily what people should be doing in a job search. So there's so much in that ecosystem that's how I see it come around every day. And it's nice to be tagged into some of those, but really you don't need that. You can just do a search on LinkedIn to find that information.
And you know what I wish, Mark? I wish that more people that were working had their own tribe like that.
Yes.
Because we're all technically competitors. We're all doing the same thing. So anybody who has a job could create their own little posse group,
yes,
whatever you want to call it, tribe, pod, of people that do the same kind of thing so that they can stay fresh, current. And it would be, what I've gotten so much from my interaction with people who are in my field, and I learn from everybody daily, and I value the friendships and relationships that I've formed. And it just seems to me that if everybody did that for their career, their own career cluster, that they would greatly benefit.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the name of the game in the 2020s, that you're finding tribes or creating tribes that are helping you keep apprised of industry movements and happenings and news. That is your content basis, basically. It's the yeast to baking your career cake, so to speak. You can't, it's almost as if you're not attached to a network, you're going to be still vetted a whole lot longer for me to trust you. If you're a part of my tribe, there's not going to be a problem me referring you and giving you a heads up on opportunities. I use this in my role. There's so many reasons why you should have them. And those are your people, instead of just, people I mentioned like you and Jackie and Mark and Bob, and there's a few others that go along with that. you guys are kind of like my inner circle, and I think everybody needs to have an inner circle where they can bounce some ideas and get immediate response to. But it also helps to have that tribe where there's 30, 40, 50 people that you can ask a question and they'll respond and give an honest and authentic answer according to their experience. And it's not all, we're not judging each other. This is what I'm seeing. And that really helps particularly for me, to inform everybody else that these things are actually real-time happenings.
Absolutely. Because one of the other things that you wrote about in one of your articles about underemployment was one of the things that somebody can do to sort of help them fight their way out of underemployment is to have a mentor or to find a mentor or mentors. Mm-hmm. I think that that's such a brilliant idea. Right?
Yeah. I think that's one of the keys of getting out of underemployment is that you can use informational interviews. And you and I have talked about this, and I think you inform my thoughts in the sense that don't think of it as that you're about to question someone. You're building a conversation. It's a business conversation. It's not a matter of asking them questions, giving them answers. You're going to judge them based on it. You want to develop a rapport. You want to develop a friendship as often as you can. So, if you're if you're somebody who's underemployed, you want to try to have at least maybe 10 in a particular month if you want to build some momentum. If anything, on the lowest end of expectations, you're going to get some information that's going to inform your career, your future career, or your business venture even, if you're trying to do both. On the high end, you're making a high level connection to where that person feels great about even saying, hey, I know some people that could really help you, and they'll point you to those particular people. You shouldn't expect always that that person's going to hire you. That could happen too. I've seen that happen.
Yeah.
And that's the ultimate. But ultimately, informational interview helps you to inform. So if you have 10 of those people a month, you're starting to build a little tribe now. And especially when they become interested in what you're doing in your progress, sometimes they may even lay out a little small challenge where you need to step up. And if you don't step up, then you might not be ready for what you think you are yet. But if you do, you're showing that person that you're really interested. And there's something about people who really are truly successful that they're looking for opportunities to give as opposed to take. And, that's a way to do it. And if you can build your tribe around that, you can keep having success throughout time.
It's sort of like the three pillars. In order for somebody to feel like comfortable in buying something or making a decision, they have to feel like they know, like, and trust.
Sure.
Right? Those three pillars, know, like, and trust. And that's one of the huge advantages of the informational interview is that it helps somebody know, like, and trust you and build that relationship.
Right. And it becomes your own personal referral engine, in essence. And, there's nothing greater than being able to go from one place to another based on and totally predicated on the work that you've done with other people. And who could vouch for you and also can vouch for the energy that you give them and also the value that you can also exchange with them as well. It's not always just about you getting, it's about what do you have to exchange.
Yeah.
It makes it really important and makes it possible for you to continue to move along in your career.
So we're almost at full employment. Like, unemployment is the lowest it's been in years. And in one of your other articles, you wrote that 32% of employees said that they are ready to find a new job, but they can't find them. They can't get hired. And then you list a whole bunch. You give 6 reasons, but there's actually more than that in there.
Sure.
Really powerful stuff. Why do you think people don't understand how to look for a job in today's day and age? Where did that go wrong? Where did that go wrong?
Well, we're all competing in the space of information. There's a lot of wrong information. And unfortunately, and I say unfortunate in some ways because people go to people who they trust. And unfortunately, the most trust that they have are the parents, the family, and the friends, rather than the people who they met on LinkedIn that wrote the article, and writing them and asking them more questions. Who else should I be reading? Who else should I be listening to? What podcast should I listen to? Or even, do you know someone that, or do you look in the article and see, okay, these people were references. I need to contact that person because I know that they have that information. And it's just a matter of the building blocks. And people, unfortunately, I get some of this is that I don't want to go through all of that. I said, but you got to go through all of that.
Yeah, there's no easy button, right?
No, people want to do things without the work. Let's face it, you and I don't get a chance to do what we do because we waited for somebody to come find us. No, we had to sometimes, eat humble pie and ask them and sit at someone's feet, so to speak, and look up to them and ask the questions and go back and do your own homework. It's a lot of work involved in job search. There's no easy way to succeed in it.
But once they find the truth, right? Once they've seen the light, there isn't anything secret about it. I mean, it's just a lot of work.
No, it's a lot of work, and the things that people base it on what they're willing to do. When you say you should go talk to 10 people this month and have information interviews this month, I don't think that's an unrealistic point of view. Information interview could just take about 10 minutes. So you're just asking somebody to take 2 hours a month to something that could, give your career a jump start, not that will solve it. And I think the expectations, because a lot of the stories are out there. So I did this and it was great and I got a job. And, not everybody's going to have that. Probably, 1 out of 10,000 that might happen to, maybe 1 out of 100,000.
So why do it if it's not guaranteed to land me a job?
Right. Where really you get the benefit of informing your career for the long term, not just to get the job. If you're just going to get the job and it's easy, then other people are also getting hired and it's easy for them. Then we wouldn't have the unemployment or the possible hole that could be there if people are asked, if everybody's able to get in line and then automatically get the job, because that just means a lot of people are also going to get laid off all at one time because they don't have the skills to sustain it, or weren't able to learn at the pace that they didn't expect to having to learn it, and having to be laid off or fired or whatever that may be. But it creates a lot of problems.
Sorry.
That's
Sorry.
All right.
Okay, so the other thing, so you're talking about staying current, right?
Yes.
And learning and developing, but there's some weird, funky stuff going on with people who are either underemployed or in the job market and looking for something new. And we can call it ageism or age discrimination. We can call it race discrimination. We can call it sex discrimination. Like there's a whole bunch of that right now. And that confuses me because I hear employers screaming, we can't find the right people. We can't find enough people. But yet we're also hearing about more and more parts of discrimination and bias entering into this process. So what's going on with that?
There are varying thoughts on this. I'm going to give you my thought from where I sit. And it's not that where people get hired in sight of their biases. In other words, an employer could have a bias. They could still hire somebody that doesn't fit their ideal prototype, and still bias will still be affected. In other words, if I hire somebody who's older, but my own expectations of them is to perform in this kind of way for this amount of time, but that person has a lot more, you're not giving them a chance to thrive in their career. And that's one type of bias. Not all of it is that I won't hire, is that a lot of times even, referrals, in the sense that if you have a homogenous company and they said, we're going to hire diverse and we are depending on referrals, people are going to refer people like themselves to a job. So
Yeah.
you still have the same problem. Instead of doing something disruptive to hire people that are diverse, people who are older or different race or different gender or different religious philosophy, uh, we can go into all these different categories. But I get tired of seeing companies saying that we're a diverse company, and then I look on their webpage, and and everybody who's a part of the board and the management
Looks the
team,
same.
they all look the same, and say,
Mhm.
"Yet we're a diverse company." Well, you're lying.
Right.
You're
Right.
lying. You're not interested in diverse. They said, well, we consider diversity of thought. Everybody has been into diversity of thought since the beginning of time. It's like, who are you trying to fool? So really, when we get into having that conversation, there are companies that are doing it. And I write for a company called Ripple Match. Shout out to ripplematch.com, where they allow me to talk a little bit talk some about diversity. In fact, that's one of the reasons why they've had me write a couple of articles for them to talk about 10 conferences where employers can go to find diverse candidates. You got to go to
Where they are.
you got to go where they are. And yeah, it may be a little uncomfortable for you, but if you're truly like that, if you really want to have that, that's where you go. However, if we reverse it, being Black, I'm going to look for a company that has a diverse board, a diverse management team, a diverse leadership team. I'm going to read their newsletters to see if they are talking about hiring diversity and promoting diversity, and that they're going to spend. They don't have to try to impress me of what they know about my culture, but they can impress me on how they're willing to build and listen to people in my culture. So I'm going to look for those companies. If I'm older, and I am, uh, I'm going to look for the people who are playing an integral part and that they're being talked about and their experiences being valued. I'm not, if it's a bunch of young guys and they all look the same, then I'm not going to believe it. I'm going to take my talent somewhere else. So I think job seekers have the power in that kind of way as well. People say, well, why won't these people hire diversity? Well, they've been around for 100 years and they've looked the same for all these years. They're not gone. You might as well start looking somewhere else.
Well, yeah, and not to, I mean, it is a hard thing to really, if you aren't diverse, if you aren't a diverse company,
Right.
it takes a lot of effort to make that shift and get the whole company on board. So the larger the company, the more challenging
Yes.
it can be. It's going to take some time.
Yeah.
But as a job seeker, that, I mean, don't think it's going to happen overnight, right? If they speak diversity, but they don't act diversity, like they don't put their money where their mouth is, and they don't have policies and things that really allow for diversity to be there, then it's not going to happen anytime soon.
Yeah, take your talent somewhere where they are. And there are many companies and there are many places among the web where where there are companies that are being touted as being diverse. So you could find those places and go to them and know that you will be able to trust that at least you'll have a shot at being hired with somebody who does practice what they actually preach.
I think the good news, though, for everyone, it really is that we're having a more open conversation about this than we ever did. Like 5 years ago, 10 years ago, we weren't talking about diversity the way we're talking about it today.
Yeah.
There were no resources to really vet or to evaluate diversity and a lot of stuff. So thank goodness LinkedIn has just been there over these past few years, because I think it's done a much better job helping job seekers become aware of what companies really look like inside. Otherwise, it would have been impossible to tell.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to Maria Zimenoff, who's initiated this discussion in the Career Thought Leaders Consortium. And she really is seeming like she's really open to having this dialogue. And I think she even recently there was a call. I think I missed it, but where racial diversity age, gender, all of that is being discussed, and how to help those particular clients. That's a really important discussion on our end to have. And I think what's been, I'll give another shout out to the National Career Development Association, who are pretty diverse in their approach in the classes. I'm going to that conference in too.
Yeah. What I've loved about our relationship over the years, Mark, is that we've shared a lot of laughs. We've done a lot of videos, and we've had a lot of conversations.
Yes.
And what has always impressed me about you is that you're genuine. You're real. You're not pretending to be something that you're not. You're not over the top braggadocious. You know, you're just a really hardworking, great person, and it's really been my honor and pleasure to know you over these past few years.
Thank you. The same. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, since I had you begin the show, and probably I should put it all to bed. And since it is still my show.
Take me home, Mark. Take me home.
Well, Hannah, thank you so much for doing this. There are very few people I would even trust to do that. And that's just, again, part of the relationship that we have over time. For the rest of you, just so you'll know, you'll probably hear speckles of this interview for a long time, because I'll probably edit it down and it end up in other episodes. So don't be surprised, because I'm going to change the format a little bit in the fall. And yes, I do plan that far ahead of time. There's only like 4 or 5 more shows left for the rest of you who are listening. So, stay tuned for that. There's going to be 1 show in April. There's going to be 2 in May. We got 1 other coming up here. I think this will be the one that will appear on Tuesday, March 3rd, March 4th, or something like that. In the meantime, thank you very much for joining us here on The Voice of Job Seeker. You want to get a hold of me, you want to know more about me, go to voiceofjobseeker.com. I write in a lot of different places. If you want to know more about that, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. You're more than welcome to. Thanks a lot, and you guys have a great week. And try to stay warm. I know for some of you it's been pretty cold. I think, Hannah, you live in one of those very cold, snowy places, right? Yeah.
It was 40, now it's 0. So
right. Well, that's the way you have it. You all stay safe.